I am Morse Life's president and CEO, Keith Myers. The Morse Life Holocaust Learning Experience educates students throughout Florida and beyond on the lessons from the Holocaust. A student will learn to be an upstander, not a bystander.
They have to stand up, and they have to speak up, and they have to stand up even if they stand alone, and speak even if they speak alone.
Help us teach the lessons from the Holocaust to never forget. It is the only way to ensure it will never happen again.
Hi, I'm Gary Lesser, managing partner of Lesser, Landy & Smith, and it's our great honor to be a partner in this important effort to fight anti-Semitism and raise awareness of the Holocaust. I'm very lucky that I'm following in the footsteps of those who've come before me. My grandfather came to town in the 1920s, and he started the first conservative synagogue, Temple Bethel. My mother was a real trailblazer, a real leader for her time. She was the first founding president of Hadassah in Palm Beach County, and one of the first chairs of the Women's Division of Jewish Federation. In the 30+ years that I've been in town, I've been very involved with Jewish Federation, the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee, causes that build Jewish community and that build community together. And I think the key is to get involved in some way. You can make a donation online to the Holocaust Museum, to the Jewish Federation, to the Anti-Defamation League, to the American Jewish Committee. The more we talk about the stories, the more we personalize the stories of what happened to people, the more we can make sure that it doesn't happen again.
This is a CBS 12 News special presentation. Hate Rising, Anti-Semitism in America. Sponsored by Lesser, Landy & Smith Attorneys at Law and Morse Life Holocaust Learning Experience.
It is a virus that mutates over time.
And you know what hurts the most? The people expressing it.
History could repeat itself.
A van covered in anti-Semitic graffiti drove through the crowd, shouting racist slurs before police chased them off.
It scares me.
They're trying to instill fear. They're trying to channel our energies into fighting them.
And there's a lot of people around this country of the Jewish faith who are on their hit list.
You're talking about all these Jews need to die.
What about Hitler then?
I love him.
We love him. You love Adolf Hitler?
Yes. I love everyone.
It should never be tolerated in American society.
I can't understand after such a World War II that there is still this all around us and getting worse.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this special presentation, Hate Rising, Anti-Semitism in America. Anti-Semitism translates to prejudice or hostility against Semites, the Greek for Jewish people. The persecution of the Jews goes back thousands of years, but today it's on the rise around the globe and even here in the United States. Now, CBS 12 News, in partnership with the USC Shoah Foundation, presents this unvarnished look at the current wave of anti-Semitism, efforts to educate the public through first-hand accounts of Holocaust survivors, and the ongoing fight against the scourge of hate that seems at times to be all around us. Some of the stories and images you're about to see over the next hour are going to be difficult to watch, but there is a purpose behind sharing these horrible and heartbreaking memories, to build empathy, understanding, and respect, and to know that future generations will know this terrible history and won't let it happen again.
Anti-Semitism in America has always been. This is I find out. You know, I found out when I first came here. And I've been here, what, 70 years? Over 70 years? You know, it's never, all over the world, it has never gone away. It just, every now and then, it surges up worse than it was yesterday. And for some reason, after a little while, it seems like it's calming down, but it doesn't. It just doesn't have the group of people to mess it up again like it is now.
Vandalism and harassment targeting Jewish communities are even higher than ever.
As the nation grapples with rising incidents of anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism has been in the spotlight recently with celebrities like Kanye West and Kyrie Irving.
They are images from the last 5 years. Many 50 years ago thought we'd never see again. While anti-Semitism is on the rise internationally, there are also staggering numbers of incidents here at home, recently detailed by FBI Director Christopher Wray.
We've seen about 63% of religious hate crimes overall are motivated by anti-Semitism, and that's targeting a group that just makes up about 2.4% of the American population.
This at a time the former president, who days after announcing he's running again, had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with outspoken anti-Semite and white nationalist Nick Fuentes, along with rapper Kanye West, who goes by Ye.
So Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes.
That dinner met with fierce criticism from Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill.
There is no room in the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy.
That is just an utter disgrace. That is un-American.
What do you think of the world today with the anti-Semitism on the rise?
Very sad. I'm very sad about that.
What do you think we can do about it?
We have to be very vigilant and open and talk to everybody and start to see who is good and who is bad. You know, there are bad people around still.
Hello, is Dalton Clodfelder here?
Who's asking?
I'm from CBS 12. I'm a reporter. I would like to talk with him about the
We don't talk to reporters.
Clodfelder and his friends are taking their message to college campuses. Their group, called Ye is Right, promotes the view expressed by rapper Kanye West to express bigotry and love for Adolf Hitler under the umbrella of Christianity, professing love for all men, no matter their sins.
Talking about how much you adore Adolf Hitler and
adore is not the correct
Never
term.
said that.
Never once said that in this
How do
entire
you feel about Hitler then?
I love him.
We love him.
You love Adolf Hitler?
Yes.
I love everyone.
We love everybody.
Put that in there. I love everyone.
But how can you love someone who killed so many people during the Holocaust?
How can God love someone like that?
Clodfelder and his friends, who showed up with their own cameras and microphones shortly after we arrived at Clodfelder's home, told CBS 12 News they are Groypers, a group the Anti-Defamation League calls white supremacists.
Do you still believe that Jews control all the major institutions in the country?
That's a fact.
Including the media?
That's a fact.
Lies and propaganda are very strong motivators. If you repeat lies long enough, you know, people will believe them. And fortunately, thanks to our free press here, and let's hope that it remains free, that the truth is told to counter this terrible propaganda. And that's, you know, the Holocaust really happened because of the propaganda constantly thrown at the people and the truth not being told.
Anti-Semitism is one of those perennials, unfortunately. It's been around for thousands of years, and it seems to arise when people find a need for somebody to blame for something, whether there's a crisis in society, but it's always there. Whether it's peaking or valleying, anti-Semitism sort of is a perennial virus.
This weekend, I'm asking Jewish men to put on their kippahs. Women and everyone else, put on a Star of David. It's a weekend to be visibly Jewish. Let them see that not only we're not afraid of them, but we're proud of who we are.
Tonight at 11, several Florida hate groups calling for an organized Day of Hate.
In the midst of all this hate, we are also encouraged to see that we have allies.
Why Jewish communities are on high alert and concerned for their safety.
Yesterday, too many parents were forced to explain to their children the meaning of a swastika and one of the most abhorrent racial slurs.
I have to tell you, I can't understand after such a World War II that there is still this all around us and getting worse. Not better, but worse.
Today we must all say clearly and forcefully, anti-Semitism and all forms of hate and violence in this country have no safe harbor in America.
Anti-Semitism is one of the oldest versions of dehumanizing one person versus another.
As more anti-Semitic flyers were discovered over in West Palm Beach neighborhood over the weekend, police say they seized close to 500 flyers in the Flamingo Park area. 3 men were cited for littering, and investigators believe they are part of the same group that left anti-Semitic flyers in the Old Northwood neighborhood just last weekend.
When our officers stopped these 5 individuals and basically told them that they were going to receive the citations, they started calling our officers different names, including our African-American officers, using racial epithets, the N-word.
This is hard for you, huh? Your low IQ wants to attack me, doesn't it? Over a word.
I can only assume that there's a need right now, people feeling there's some crisis, there's great division. Seems, we're a society that has become very partisan, very split. And it seems the discourse has become very, very ugly.
Racism, bigotry, and intolerance, we see these words more and more. And worse, we see their poison crowded into our lives. It makes the USC Shoah Foundation's mission more relevant than ever before. Since its founding by filmmaker Steven Spielberg nearly 20 years ago after he filmed Schindler's List, its purpose has been clear: stopping genocide in all its forms and preserving the stories of the Holocaust survivors whose memories of the war and perspective on the challenges we're facing today are critical to its mission to protect all of us from the ravages of hate.
What does the word Shoah mean?
Shoah is the Hebrew word for the Holocaust. It is so important to have recorded and to continue recording the survivors of all of these various genocides and mass crimes against humanity. So the Holocaust is the one that has sort of been the model that people have been generating the vocabulary around, because it's the first one where we had sort of the technology, whether it was video, photography, all these things to record everything that happened. And all of this memory needs to be used to teach, because the way that we stop hate is by humanizing other folks. And the way we humanize them is in these face-to-face kinds of conversations. And we want to do that as much as possible with the video we have, so that people learn from all of these horrors, do them less, and then researchers can also learn why they happen.
My name is Max Markowitz, M-A-R-K-O-V-I-T-Z. I was born in Czechoslovakia. One morning, 2 soldiers came in. One was a German soldier, and they said to me, "You have to leave home with another 15-20 minutes to be on the street in front of our house." And they told us not to take too much, one small suitcase.
If you're put in a ghetto, it meant usually very high concentrations of people in a very small area. They were not allowed to leave. They had to somehow feed themselves and sustain themselves in an environment you couldn't get out. Your measure of horror and nightmare is not exclusively the concentration camps and extermination camps. It's the ghetto life and the disease and the cold and the hiding in woods and the sheer terror of this all. I mean, every story and circumstance, and there are a multitude of these, brought with fear and terror and horror.
My name is Marie Steinaway. I was born in Brussels, Belgium. When we were taken from the house and put on the train, the next step was Camp de Gurs. Camp de Gurs was a depot for us to be taken to actual concentration camps. It wasn't a pleasure place. It wasn't a happy place. You're waiting for a bomb to burst or a balloon because you felt something's going to happen.
Were you afraid of being taken away from your mother and your sister?
Yes, because, you know, you're alone. You know, I don't know if you can understand, but you feel trapped. You know, trapped. It's like some people do to animals. They trap them. They can't move. They can do this. They, you know, they hurt. It wasn't a very good time. But here I am to tell you.
My name is Fanny Narodsky. I was born in Borschtov. I was with my grandmother in the house, and I suddenly heard screaming and shouting, and it was in German. And I went to the window, and I had a little chair, and I stood on the chair to look through the window, and I saw a motorcycle, 2 Nazis on the motorcycle. And I saw a woman crawling on the pavement with a shot in her left shoulder and the baby in her right arms. My grandmother ran to me and covered my eyes, took me away from the window. And they killed that baby by throwing the baby towards the wall.
My name is Anya Baum. I'm from Belarus. Belarus was on fire. Everything, people running, we all run. We run to the cattle train. A lot of people in one cattle train. I don't know, maybe about 60, 70 people in one cattle train, one on top of the other. My brother swelled up because he was hungry. We didn't have no food for a couple of days already. So the peasant people gave a bottle of milk in a piece of bread. And my mother gave it to my brother. He should eat it. So I said, Ma, but how about me? She said, but you're not swollen, so you cannot have no food. I said, but I'm hungry. She said, I'm sorry, I'm hungry too, but he has to eat it because he's swelled up.
You know, after the movie Schindler's List, Steven Spielberg got together with his team and started doing the interviews and collecting them, and it's just had a phenomenal impact. What the testimony is about is humanizing, making sure that we look at other people and we're like, oh, that's a human being, and it's much harder to hurt another human being.
Okay, Mr. Greenwich, but I'm going to ask you to hold this and so that Lee can read it for the camera.
Today's date is April 7th, 2023. Interviewee is Yaakov Greenspun.
One of the famous Jewish writers, Ehrenburg, he wrote a memoir and he put it beautifully. He said, I am a Jew by blood, but not by blood that flows through my veins, but the blood that flows out of the veins of my ancestors.
Their determined demand is that we engage fully with history, that the Holocaust remain with us in memory. Theirs were journeys into the Holocaust. They cannot emerge from it, and neither can the world until there are no more genocides, until the unthinkable becomes impossible.
My name is David Tibor Fischer. I was born in Budapest, Hungary, on July 19, 1933. My father was an owner of the biggest modern bakery in Budapest. In 1938, the first regulation came out against the Jews, people in Hungary, and things started to change. During that time, the Yellow Star law came out in Hungary. Jews had to wear yellow star on their clothes. Business were taken away. My mother transferred the bakery to one of the non-Jewish managers to run it. Later, when we were forced out from our house, they moved in and looted everything. Around June 44, the Hungarian Nazis gathered all young women from these houses to a camp in the brick factory ground in Buda. One morning around 5, everybody needed to get together in the courtyard. They put us in a walking transport, which was later known as the famous Dead March from Hungary to Austria. 75% of the transport never survived the walk, include my extended family, cousins, nephews, etc.
This was in civilized society. This was, a sophisticated Europe where 6 million Jews were murdered, annihilated. 2/3 of European Jewry were decimated. And it didn't start with the gas chambers. It started with words, with acts, with legislation, where hatred of Jews became tolerated and accepted.
That is the true horror of the Holocaust. These were not the murderous acts of a hateful few. The eradication of the Jewish people was government policy of one of the most powerful nations on earth. Not simple prejudice or whispered insults. This was an organized extermination that loaded thousands of innocents onto boxcars like this one and carried them to their deaths.
We were picked up in 1944. I was about 12 years old. That was a change of my life right then and there. Everybody was sort of in the dark about why we were there and the future of where we were going. We discovered it was Auschwitz. It was a shock to us. We were inspected by Dr. Mengele. He decided where we should go. My 2 sisters who were selected to go to one place, they ended up going to a different barracks. They were escorted by soldiers where to go. My father and I to another platform where the able-bodied people were able to work, and women and children to another platform. My mom and my younger brother, they were escorted to a different place. And I never saw them again, ever.
Did she say anything to you when you were separated?
My mother didn't have much to say because they told me they were going to a place where they had to take a shower. Later on, another prisoner who was there for years already, he was from Poland. He pointed out to us, "You see those chimneys over there?" I said, "Yes, we see the chimney. That's where your brother and your mother are there right now, being gassed and taken to the crematorium."
My name is Alden Moskin. The nightmares that I had many times was about combat and killing and visuals of bodies and death. I'm glad now finally that after 50 years that I finally started to speak about what I experienced and what I'm talking about now. When we entered that camp, it was the most horrific sight that I've ever seen or ever hoped to see. There was a pile of skeletal-like bodies on the left, and there was another pile of skeletal. And when I say skeletal-like, I mean skeletal-like. Just a bunch of bones with hardly any flesh laying on top of each other. They were so emaciated, I try to, close my eyes and get the picture back a little bit. They were praying or chanting, some prayers and dialects we didn't know, because they didn't know who we were either, I guess, at first. They were half delirious, so emaciated it defies description. I don't think they could have weighed more than 70, 80 pounds. All I remember, their arms and legs looked like broomsticks to me, like no flesh. And their cheeks were hollowed out, and the eyes sunken back into the sockets of their heads. was chaos. I remember my captain was trying to get, screaming on a walkie-talkie or whatever. He couldn't get through. Get help up here. Get help up here. There's people dying all over this damn place. Get help up here. And there was a lot of crying going on in that place afterwards, I remember, from hard-necked soldiers, because what we saw was terrible. And then I remember the barracks were asked to check out what we call the barracks. It was hut, like huts or barracks, as far as you could see, an upper and a lower. You went in there, the stench, you could hardly breathe, it was so bad. And then some of them were lying down on the ground, which was wet, dead. And those were alive. Some of them were actually sitting next to or on top of dead bodies, the same on the bunks. Dead bodies all over. Some were alive, and all they were doing was looking at it sort of and pleading, you know, like with that pleading, they're doing gesture, help me, help me, or something. And then I remember coming out and screaming for the medics to get up here. And the medics were overmatched. There were thousands of bodies and thousands of half dead all over the place. And they couldn't handle everything. They were still trying to handle some of the wounded soldiers. And then I remember another scene when I came out of the barracks. It was a dead horse on the side of to the right. And I saw 3 of these inmates with the bark of a tree. They pulled off from the tree, the sharp edge of a bark of a tree, and they were digging it into the guts and entrails of a dead horse. You could hear the bones of the leg crackling, actually. And I'm looking up. And then they would reach in and pull the guts or the entrails of a dead horse out and start biting and chewing. You could see the blood squirting all over. Now, this is gross. But I tell you, when you see something like that, what starvation does to people, it's something you can't forget. Is it Eisenhower, who was the commanding general? He said, I want you to take photos, I want you to get everything down, because someday people are going to say we made it up. They won't believe it. Someday people are going to say this didn't happen. It's too crazy, they won't believe us. It's hard for me to understand how they said nobody knew anything about it. This wasn't like a secret. It was going on for years, these camps. And found out later through the Holocaust Museum in Washington, there were close to 30 or 40,000 if you count all the sub-camps all over.
My surviving has a purpose. I want to give what I can, as best I can, to make people understand what Holocaust people have gone through and lost. Because they really have given up their lives, in a way, by going through a horrible time and by losing so much.
A world at war. Europe consumed by anti-Semitism. Together, we defeated tyranny and helped stop the Holocaust. Remember, January 27th is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, a day to remember those lost during this heinous chapter in history. Commemorate the victims and listen to the survivors.
It's something I have to do to honor all the people who died.
USC Shoah Foundation collects and preserves the memories and records testimonies with the Visual History Archive, teaching and leading today and tomorrow.
If I don't talk about it, then it can happen again.
Learn more about USC Shoah Foundation and how someone can participate in the Visual History Archive. Use the QR code on the screen or log on to the USC Shoah website at sfi.usc.edu. Production provided by Sinclair Broadcast Group.
Hi, I'm Gary Lesser, managing partner of Lesser, Landy & Smith, and it's our great honor to be a partner in this important effort to fight anti-Semitism and raise awareness of the Holocaust. I'm very lucky that I'm following in the footsteps of those who've come before me. My grandfather came to town in the 1920s, and he started the first conservative synagogue, Temple Bethel. My mother was a real trailblazer, a real leader for her time. She was the first founding president of Hadassah in Palm Beach County, and one of the first chairs of the Women's Division of Jewish Federation. In the 30+ years that I've been in town, I've been very involved with Jewish Federation, the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee, causes that build Jewish community and that build community together. And I think the key is to get involved in some way. You can make a donation online to the Holocaust Museum, to the Jewish Federation, to the Anti-Defamation League, to the American Jewish Committee. The more we talk about the stories, the more we personalize the stories of what happened to people, the more we can make sure that it doesn't happen again.
I am Morse Life's president and CEO, Keith Myers. The Morse Life Holocaust Learning Experience educates students throughout Florida and beyond on the lessons from the Holocaust. A student will learn to be an upstander, not a bystander.
They have to stand up, and they have to speak up, and they have to stand up even if they stand alone, and speak, even if they speak alone.
Help us teach the lessons from the Holocaust to never forget. It is the only way to ensure it will never happen again.
You're watching a CBS 12 News special presentation, Hate Rising, Anti-Semitism in America, sponsored by Lesser Landy & Smith Attorneys at Law and Morse Life Holocaust Learning Experience.
Welcome back. The stories we've heard from Holocaust survivors are so horrific, it's difficult to imagine that they actually happened. General Eisenhower told his troops to make sure that they took pictures and film to document the atrocities carried out by the Nazi soldiers. Today, many of those Holocaust survivors are getting older and passing on. That's why Holocaust education is so important, now more than ever, to make sure that those crimes are never forgotten or repeated. So, does this mean first grade?
Yes.
Okay, so then you've got all the grades here, and then you've got, as you go, these are bigger boxes.
Yes. For middle and high school and 5th grade, we have bigger boxes.
It's called a teaching trunk. The Florida Holocaust Museum in St. Petersburg has dozens of them.
As every trunk, it's filled with books, as you can see, videos. There is a curriculum binder to give teachers ideas.
These trunks are sent to schools asking for additional materials to help teach their students about one of history's most horrifying events.
We have an amazing anthology called Salvage Pages that has diaries written by young people during the Holocaust. So that's particularly interesting for students because they can read diaries created by people who are of a similar age group.
Ursula Shapinska is the museum's director of education and research. Keeping tabs on these teaching trunks is just a small part of her job.
You know, there is a saying that history likes to repeat itself. I always say that history doesn't repeat itself. We repeat history as human beings through our choices.
And that history is under attack. Despite the pictures and eyewitness accounts, outright lies about the Holocaust, denial, and anti-Semitism have resurfaced.
I think a lot of people are wondering and scratching their head and asking themselves why? Why now? Why at all?
You know, I think like anything deep-seated and complicated, it's not just one thing.
Mike Eagle is the museum's chairman of the board. He's also the grandson of Holocaust survivors.
Education is the key, you know, and I know that can sound trite sometimes, but it's so true.
In his role, Eagle also works directly with the Florida Commissioner of Education to help schools integrate Holocaust education in the classroom. He says kids today are bombarded online with conspiracy theories and elaborate fabrications about Jews.
We always say we're racing to people's ears. And who's going to get to that ear first? Is it the good folks like us, or is it the other side?
In 1985, California became the first state in the country to make Holocaust education mandatory in public schools. A decade later, Florida also passed a similar law. As of today, almost half the states require history teachers to cover this material.
How many teachers are taught or trained how to teach the Holocaust? And it's really sensitive material and content.
Jenny Frumer is the director of the Morris Life nonprofit called Now for Holocaust Survivors. Most people know Morris Life as a well-established and trusted healthcare system in South Florida. It also operates a nonprofit created to help aging Holocaust survivors and their families with everything from meals to medical services. It's now ventured into the education field.
The reason a health system is doing education is because we've been helping Holocaust survivors for all these years. And they implore us, don't forget. What about us?
It's so important that Morris Life has invested time and money to create this.
Thank you for inviting the Holocaust Learning Experience to your class. We hope you find our presentation insightful and impactful.
Frumer and her colleague, Lee Routman, who serves as the executive director of the Holocaust Learning Experience, takes us through this web-based education tool for teachers. It includes highly produced videos featuring Holocaust survivors.
And the street was closed. We tried to walk the other way. The other end of the block was also cordoned off. And because I was in the street, I was the low-hanging fruit, and I was literally the first child taken.
The videos are emotional and gripping, filled with graphic photos and historical films, effective visuals to reach a digital generation.
We're using that historical footage that's so important that the Nazis were diabolical in capturing, and we're using, as Jenny said, that evil for good now, and making it relevant to today's issues.
The lessons also go one step further by connecting current day issues such as intolerance and bullying.
The man in this photo is being humiliated as a Nazi soldier cuts off his beard. No one stops the soldier. Do you think he received orders that day to stop an innocent elderly man and cut off his beard? Probably not. But there were no consequences for harassing Jewish people. If these were children, this would be called bullying. But these are not children.
The Holocaust was so much more than bullying, which it was. But how do you explain how these kinds of things start? It starts with bullying. It starts with these kinds of actions where no one really says that's not okay.
Morris Life hopes its Holocaust learning experience will eventually be shown in every classroom across the country. While it's difficult to measure the effectiveness of all these initiatives, most agree when young people are confronted with this violent past, it's the first step towards eradicating anti-Semitism along with future crimes motivated by hate.
For the past couple of years, our partners at the USC Shoah Foundation have been working with artificial intelligence technology to make it possible for people to ask questions to Holocaust survivors about their experience even after they're gone.
The Florida Holocaust Museum in St. Petersburg welcomes thousands of students and visitors every year. Today, it is home to a unique experiment in sharing knowledge across generations. It's called Dimensions in Testimony, a project of the USC Shoah Foundation. And even now, in the beta testing phase, the results are impressive. This is Ed Herman. He was born in Warsaw, Poland in 1931. In 1939, Germany invaded, starting what would become World War II. He and his family were relocated into a Jewish ghetto. 4 years later, Ed's mother arranged for him and a few others to escape into Hungary before they were slaughtered by the Nazis. He ended up in this orphanage. In 2021, Ed sat down for the first session, one of the longest and most detailed interviews of his life. When it was over, he had answered hundreds of questions about his childhood, his experiences during the war, and his reflections on it afterward. Today, Ed is one of 4 survivors. Visitors can ask questions in this unique interactive exhibit at the Florida Holocaust Museum. On this day, a local middle school class was quizzing him on life during the war.
Did he know, when they took him away, did he know where he was going?
What was his job?
Oh, later in life?
No, in the ghetto.
In the ghetto?
Was he the only one in his family that survived?
I lost many close relatives
during the war, including my grandparents on both sides, well, my grandfather on my mother's side, and my grandparents on my father's side. So there are many victims of the Hitler's executioners.
Rob Williams, executive director at the USC Shoah Foundation, says through this technology, the single greatest resource we have to communicate the true horrors of the Holocaust, the firsthand accounts of the men and women who were there, and the impact of sharing those memories face to face will never be lost.
The Shoah Foundation will continue to innovate. It will continue to experiment. It will continue to push the envelope of how we can use technology and new media to reach audiences, to educate them, to teach them fact from fiction, and to ensure that the voices of survivors continue to teach us in perpetuity.
It is somewhat unsettling to people when they come in, that they feel that they're talking to a person who's sitting in front of them. Well, they are talking to a person, and that person has been asked and has answered 1,000 questions, so that when you ask a question, it will give you an answer.
And yeah, that definitely looks like we're coming in hot on the Instagram, so let's see what 320 looks like.
Once the interviews are recorded, each individual answer is logged into the system. Then natural language technology is used to analyze the questions, so the program can instantly select and play back the best answer.
It feels intimate too, because you ask the question and he's responding to it. You really do feel like you're having a conversation with someone.
But even this state-of-the-art technology can't be prepared for every question that might be asked. Fortunately, they thought of that too.
Who patrolled the ghetto at night?
This is a very good question, but I was never asked this question during my interview.
The testimonies of survivors of the Holocaust and other mass atrocity crimes of the 20th and 21st century teach us a number of things. But at the core, what they teach us is that it's possible to be resilient in the face of the worst that humanity has to offer. It's possible to stand up and live through traumas that most of us cannot possibly imagine. And it's possible, despite all of the horrors they've seen and experienced, to retain one's basic humanity and one's understanding of our common fellowship to one another.
We are very excited about it. Adopting over time these new sophisticated ways to bring people together with the Holocaust survivors and their testimony, even though they will no longer be with us in this world. In a sense, they will be with us through this work.
Today, anti-Semitism is ringing alarm bells for politicians, law enforcement, religious leaders, and families of all faiths. But the one question no one can seem to wrap their arms around is, where is it coming from and why now? We talked to survivors and experts to get their thoughts.
Anti-Semitism is not a new phenomenon. There are mentions dating back thousands of years. What is new is that in a time when discrimination and prejudice of all kinds are being rooted out and dragged into the light, this brand of hate seems to be spreading.
I'm not surprised that we're seeing a rise in anti-Semitism today. I think that as our society has increasing challenges, even having come through what we came through with the pandemic, that scapegoating is the history of the Jews. You know, eons and eons and centuries, Jews have been targeted. There's always been Jew hate. And so it doesn't surprise me that when things get rough, when times get more challenging, that as a society, unfortunately, we tend to want to target different groups, and it's often the Jews.
I think it's horrible what's happening all over the world, but especially in a country like America. You have to wonder where the hate comes from. Had to have been instilled. It's like a horrible chain. It's like abuse that goes on and on and on. That's how I feel about, anti-Semitic hate. It's a chain, and it's got to be broken somewhere, somehow.
You know, we all sort of hoped and assumed that the Holocaust put an end to anti-Semitism, you know, because how could anybody look at this and the consequence and see what it actually means and still ascribe to those views? And it is with great sadness and despair that one realizes that that wasn't the case, and that in actual fact, the post-Holocaust period up until the last 10, 15 years was a blip.
The anti-Semitism of the past has changed with the times, growing in the dark corners of the internet, allowing neo-Nazis and others to find each other and share their obsessions online. Jews were blamed for 9/11. Now those same attacks have been updated to blame Jews for COVID, inflation, even Islamic extremism. Lies and propaganda that can be shared around the world in an instant.
Good or bad, true or untrue information, the way that it's disseminated, it's so easy to just post something now. And I think, of course, social media has a lot of benefit, but also it's just a cesspool at the same time. So you have all this misinformation.
In fact, on the YouTube page where we posted the segment you're watching right now, someone from a hate group apparently shared this link, and in almost no time, a barrage of anti-Semitic screeds flooded the comments section. Some insulting others using a sort of anti-Semitic shorthand, and still more encouraging people to seek out hateful content elsewhere, like a digital street gang scrolling around the internet looking to hurt people.
Anti-Semitism is known as the oldest hatred because it has been around for centuries. And obviously we know about anti-Semitism during the Holocaust, and it lives to this day. And unfortunately, as we discussed, the numbers are up. It's hard to say why people choose to hate. In some cases, it's lack of education, but in some cases, they simply choose to dehumanize their fellow humans. And they target Jewish people. It comes in words, by email, on social media. It comes, unfortunately, in violent acts, including murder. So it's hard to explain why those people make those choices, but they do.
Another concern is that today, in this era of upheaval, anti-Semitism and hate seem to be coming from all sides.
There is Islamic anti-Semitism, there is black nationalist anti-Semitism, there's Christian nationalist anti-Semitism, and there's the anti-Zionist anti-Semitism, as well as the far-right white supremacist anti-Semitism. And that's going to be a problem because the haters are not going away. They are committed to this, and they're going to keep at it. So we cannot allow good and decent people to turn away and say, enough of that, we're tired of this, because this is our society at stake. And of course, the hate isn't only directed at the Jews. So, you know, we cannot allow this to become normalized.
There is agreement on that point. The only way to stop anti-Semitism is refusing to ignore it, to stand up in support of the Jewish people at a time when they're under attack across the globe. That's the goal behind a new initiative called Stand Up to Jewish Hate from the Robert Kraft Foundation. You can learn more about the campaign and sharing the blue square at standuptojewishhate.org. But we'd like to end this segment with the words of Fanny, a Holocaust survivor who has seen the worst of humanity. We asked her to share her advice for future generations.
To the future generations, just don't hate, but love. And give love to each and everyone who needs it. And don't fight, no war anymore, no, you know, not because of color or of religion. We should be, you know, accepting people are human beings and to be good to each other.
Somehow, bigotry and hate that used to be too shameful to speak aloud is being printed onto a sign and carried onto a street, or projected onto the wall of a building, or shouted over a tabletop on a college campus. Activists, lawmakers, and police are working together to criminalize inciting violence or intimidating Jews and other minorities without violating free speech rights. But the most powerful weapon against hate is us. Friends, family, neighbors, even strangers who witness hateful conduct and refuse to ignore it. Small acts of bravery that can make the difference.
We teach at the museum that there are 4 kinds of people. There are victims, perpetrators, bystanders, and upstanders. I like to spend most of my time talking about the upstanders in my life and in the world and try to be one as much as I can.
Michael Eagle is the chairman of the Florida Holocaust Museum in St. Petersburg. He's never forgotten the reason he's here is all thanks to a Polish couple, farmers named Michał and Katarina Gurula. They were Christians who hid Jewish families from the Nazis during World War II. The Gurulas were arrested, tortured, and imprisoned for 6 weeks, but they never told the Germans where Michael's grandparents were hiding. They were later executed for harboring Jews.
To me, it's a gift. I'm one of those unique people who can actually say, I wouldn't be alive but for the superhuman acts of people who were normal only on paper. Farmers who did these incredible things that they didn't have to do.
The international Jewish community maintains a growing list of these individuals called the Righteous Among Nations, heroes who helped the Jews survive the Holocaust. It contains more than 27,000 names from 51 countries. They were the upstanders Eagle's talking about. Bystanders do nothing, upstanders act.
He decided not to just watch evil take place, but to take a stand.
That's it. All right, so because of the whole incident, I do have to take pictures of the sign and of you and everything like that. Do you mind if you just put the sign like that so I can take a picture of it? Sure.
Boca Raton, Florida, white nationalist Patrick Little walks the city's busiest boulevard, waving an anti-Semitic sign. A jogger confronts him, rips the sign. Little wants the jogger arrested for battery and disturbing the peace, but prosecutors refuse to charge the man, citing a court case that dates back to 1942 about fighting words and trying to incite a riot. Under those standards, the jogger did the right thing and committed no crime.
I'm Dave Ehrenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County. We've seen higher profile acts of anti-Semitism, and I think it's because we don't have enough leaders at the national level strongly condemning the rise of neo-Nazis and anti-Semites throughout our country and in our community. It used to be the easiest thing in the world for elected officials to condemn Nazis. I mean, that was a softball, a slow pitch. But nowadays, for a variety of reasons, you have high-profile elected officials who won't explicitly and strongly condemn the hate mongers amongst us.
What about a pop star like Kanye West? How detrimental is that to your fight?
It's very, very dangerous. I mean, if you've not heard, I'm sure you've heard the statistic that he has more followers than there are Jews in the world.
Because young people look up to their role models, whether we are talking about actors or athletes or musicians, whoever the young people follow on social media. I think it would be really helpful if those voices against anti-Semitism were even stronger.
I don't even have a word to describe what I saw in that building.
That's rapper Meek Mill, who has tens of millions of social media followers, describing his tour of the Auschwitz death camp in Poland. He was a guest of Patriots owner Robert Kraft at the 35th annual March of the Living. Mill says it was important to him to learn about the Holocaust firsthand.
I always wanted to know, not through the internet, not through a phone, not through a TV. I wanted to know for myself. So I thought it would be important for me to come here and see myself and be able to, if I ever spoke on it, make sure I'm speaking in the proper terms and giving people the proper education.
That's one more influential voice standing up against anti-Semitism. The FBI, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Southern Poverty Law Center all report an increase in anti-Semitic violence and vandalism nationwide, in neighborhoods, cities, synagogues, and museums. This year, Florida lawmakers passed landmark legislation criminalizing such actions, and 2 legislators flew to Jerusalem with the bill so Governor Ron DeSantis could sign it during the celebration of Israel's 75th anniversary.
In Florida, we treat anti-Semitism the way we treat racism.
The law, the first of its kind in the nation, makes a number of anti-Semitic and racist acts felonies, giving law enforcement the ability to arrest those responsible. The violations include distributing harassing leaflets in residential neighborhoods, a popular tactic of hate groups, threatening or intimidating anyone based on their wearing something that indicates their religious or ethnic heritage, like traditional Jewish garb, interrupting or disturbing a funeral or memorial service in public or a private residence, and displaying or projecting any image onto a structure or property without an owner's written consent.
It was very important to the Jewish community that there is some legal action to try and stem the tide of some of these acts of hatred that we have seen in this community. What it says is that the government, our legislature, is certainly in Florida, is not going to tolerate it. And that is a very clear distinction between anything that happened in Nazi Germany.
We're going to take a lot stronger stance than most people take. I'm not going to let these people get out of hand. They're just nasty, hatred individuals, and we got to draw a line in the sand, and that's what we've done. People say, "Well, isn't this just a Jewish issue?" Well, it might be right now, but where does it stop? Next will be African Americans, then it'll be Asians, then it'll be Hispanics, then it could be anything. Just depends on who they hate.
I'm the Deputy Director of the Anti-Defamation League's Florida region. My name is Lonnie Wilk. We had an incident not long ago, a school-based incident.
Hi, I'm Mason Steinberg. I go to Howard Bishop Middle School. I'm in 7th grade in the academy. I'm a great-grandson of Holocaust survivors, and one of them just recently died a few months ago. Recently, I was a victim of anti-Semitism, and I don't think that it's been addressed enough. In my civics class, out of all classes, civics, he held up his arm in a Nazi salute and said "Hail Hitler," mouthed it.
He went to his educators and administrators to call attention to the issue of anti-Semitism at large.
I am sickened to my core to hear what you've gone through. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your courage for being here tonight.
Thank you.
This will not stand.
Our standard has to be realistic. We should work as if we're going to eradicate anti-Semitism from Earth. But we also have to be realistic to know that it was here before us and it's going to be here after us, that it should not discourage us, it should galvanize us. That is an opportunity.
The reaching hand that greets you here at the Holocaust Memorial in Miami Beach is entitled "The Sculpture of Love and Anguish." It shows dozens of figures reaching upward, trying to escape the hell from below that was the Holocaust. At the top of the arm bears the letter A for the Auschwitz death camp, followed by a serial number, which was tattooed on the arms of more than 400,000 Jewish prisoners, selected for forced labor at Auschwitz alone. The soldiers did not bother to tattoo the arms of the multitudes sent directly to the gas chambers. Engraved on the steps here at the memorial, in memory of the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust. It's a good reminder, and the purpose behind all of this, to reject hate and never forget. Thanks so much for watching.
This is a CBS 12 News special presentation. Hate Rising, Anti-Semitism in America. Sponsored by Lesser Landy & Smith Attorneys at Law and Morse Life Holocaust Learning Experience. With special thanks to the USC Shoah Foundation. To rewatch any segments, log on to CBS12.com.
I am Morse Life's President and CEO, Keith Myers. The Morse Life Holocaust Learning Experience educates students throughout Florida and beyond on the lessons from the Holocaust. A student will learn to be an upstander, not a bystander.
They have to stand up, and they have to speak up, and they have to stand up even if they stand alone, and speak even if they speak alone.
Help us teach the lessons from the Holocaust to never forget. It is the only way to ensure it will never happen again.
Hi, I'm Gary Lesser, Managing Partner of Lesser, Landy & Smith, and it's our great honor to be a partner in this important effort to fight anti-Semitism and raise awareness of the Holocaust. I'm very lucky that I'm following in the footsteps of those who've come before me. My grandfather came to town in the 1920s, and he started the first conservative synagogue, Temple Bethel. My mother was a real trailblazer, a real leader for her time. She was the first founding president of Hadassah in Palm Beach County, and one of the first chairs of the Women's Division of Jewish Federation. In the 30+ years that I've been in town, I've been very involved with Jewish Federation, the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee, causes that build Jewish community and that build community together. And I think the key is to get involved in some way. You can make a donation online to the Holocaust Museum, to the Jewish Federation, to the Anti-Defamation League, to the American Jewish Committee. The more we talk about the stories, the more we personalize the stories of what happened to people, the more we can make sure that it doesn't happen again.